tempo. It's the faster of the two. And again, really, really cute, very, very accessible. This one is allegretto, grazioso, graceful, smooth, elegant. To make it sound the grazioso character, this is full of these little two-note slurs, eighth note slurs. And on the second note, there is a staccato note. It's important that they not be clipped. That is just not stylistically appropriate. Make them lift, give them space, but not clipped. A staccato note just chops off the back end of the note to make it short. And it doesn't do anything to the front. So, dia, 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 da. Slight lift and a slight stress on the first notes. And it's also really important to, just because this is not a linear line, it is important to make sure you have smooth connections. And what you can do is minimize, just like we were doing in the other etude, take away all of the extra stuff. Go back to the bare bones and figure out the shape you want for all of these shapes. So in the first measure, instead of, I would do. Figure out the shape and then add the other stuff. Same idea, just with little notes added on top. Then, in measure 16, there is a lovely downward slur. Every once in a while we encounter these. They're not the prettiest for the bassoon. And we can very easily sound like a dying cow. But to avoid that, in measure 16 we go from a G to a G. Just that one octave jump can be kind of treacherous, and it's slurred down. It's from a half hole in the left-hand first finger to fully closed. And just by changing the fingering does not make the note speak. It stays up in that octave. So you can do a couple things to help out with that. One, you obviously need to loosen your embouchure. Loose, drop the jaw. But you can still, there's still a little hitch. Still a little delay before that lower note speaks. So what you can do is for a split second, lift up your first finger and then slam it back down for the low note. In combination with the embouchure. So it will work, it will take practice. If you or your student are just flat out not getting it, tongue it very, very lightly. In many professional situations that we've been in, if it just, yeah, you may have to tongue it. Because it almost sounds tongued anyway, because it's not a smooth slur. And then in 17 through 40, this whole middle section, all of these little alternating patterns. Close fingers. This is kind of treacherous because you're going over our break on the bassoon from into the half-hold notes area. So keeping fingers very, very close. Watching how much half-hold you use. Be willing to experiment with how much half-hold you use, how big or how small. You can also, if you want to isolate hands, going from open F to G, you can leave your right hand down. And just focus on that left hand. And get that really good, and then add in both hands. And then measure 20. The low E, I have that fingering listed there. If I have time, and 99.9% of the time I do have time, adding that low D flat key improves it. Tell me what you hear. What do you hear?
A little lower, more resonance.
Yeah, more lower pitch and more resonant. It's a lot of times a clearer sound as well. So that will help because if you notice, we are in C major for a lot of this. And E is the major third, so it needs to be placed low anyway. Imagine that. And the other fingering that I use about 99% of the time is for half whole F sharp, right hand pinky. For the same reason. It has a better tone and is lower in pitch. Instead of, I use right hand pinky. And then you'll probably notice that this, I took a couple breaths. There was several measures of running eighth notes. The options I put in end of measure 24, end of measure 32. Mess around and see what works best for you. And last thing I will leave you with, on the last page of the handout, please flick. If you're a teacher, make your students flick. Ask them about flicking. It's not that difficult to check to see if they are. The notes involved are A, B flat, B, C, and sometimes D up there. In these etudes, they will need to flick using those keys. The main rules, if you are tonguing any of those notes, you have to flick it. You have to tap those keys. If you are slurring to those notes from a major third or larger, you have to tap those keys. And then D should be very rarely flicked. There are two instances we have octave jumps from D to D. And some bassoons may not have, as I note on there, this top key. You may use the one below it, whatever top key on the left column, or on the right column they have. That will work for flicking D to D. If I don't flick and I try to slur D to D, yeah, it just does not work with embouchure manipulation. Instead, that's how you get those grace notes out. Flicking, it's very essential. So, okay, and I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, these are very accessible etudes, and as long as you pay attention to all these little details, I think it should be a very rewarding experience preparing these. So, any last minute questions? No? Alrighty, thank you so much for coming.